Hey guys, welcome to another session of RBTL, or Reading Between the Lines, where we go through the patch notes or anything news related and give my thoughts and highlights. First things first, episode 3 finally here. Last week, well actually no, just a couple days ago, I did a breakdown of the video for the episode 3, like a lot of speculation and stuff like that. A lot of you guys were very good in terms of the comment feedback. Even though I got some things wrong or some assumptions were wrong, you guys were right there just to correct me, which is great stuff. Anyways, we actually get to play it now, so I'm assuming there's gonna be like portions released over time as well, over the course of the third year of Epic 7, and is there some explanations in these images here just on the trust. Honestly, it is a better, or it kind of looks like a better packaged way of how we unlock the AP shop in episode 2. They call it trust or whatever. In my opinion, it's like the same thing. Yeah, anyways, regardless, you may just clear it and you progress through it normally and you pretty much just unlock things. First item that we get is this 80 grade epic helmet, which is on, even though it's on a health set, it's not even that bad. Now coupled with some of these free 78s, and of course people who want to complete, you know, like top tier health sets for whatever reason, probably hunt golem, probably reforge golem gear. But I mean, if you're like a newish player and you're just like along the ride and you're just clearing all of these adventures, episode 1, episode 2, this is a really good piece. And if it rolls anything like the 78s that we have, this being an 80 by the way, it will probably roll just as good or even better. So perfect substats, and you won't get salty rolls except if it rolls low. So good luck to you guys rolling that. World Arena season is here, new one. Definitely can see the pace is being picked up quite quick. The preseason didn't last too long, but they constantly, Epic 7 constantly had updated World Arena or RTA stuff, just because I think it just attracts most of the viewers. I think for most content creators right now, or even any players, like running like tournaments or running like RTA streams, probably the most watched right now in terms of just Epic 7 content. Otherwise, I mean, everyone can do their expeditions, everyone could do their own hunts, but RTA is always kind of interesting to watch since it's like probably the most competitive part of the game. Athletica skin is the skin here. Now, I don't own Athletica myself, but that doesn't mean that, you know, if you don't own them, you shouldn't try to get the skin anyway. I think it's the same as last season, pretty much, more or less, that it's this, like, it's decently easy to get the skin. I mean, you just need to be master or higher, no more than that. Any player should be able to get to master. Watch me say that and then not be able to hit my masters. But regardless, I mean, it's a minimum of a master. So even if you don't own Athletica, one day with all the systems they're implementing, maybe Athletica returns, you get lucky on daily, on a covenant, with the coin shop coming as well. You know, there's a lot of opportunity to get her. I think you should definitely go for the skin, even if you don't have the hero. It's a free skin nonetheless. It's a free skin, and RTA is still free to enter right now. I'm still kind of surprised, I guess, like in a bit, that that RTA is still free to enter. That they're not capping it with flags. There's kind of some kind of entrance fee, but yes, still giving us technically as good rewards. Half. Almost as good rewards as Arena itself. Arena is mainly Skystone though. Skystone is like a huge deal in regular Arena. But if they ever amp up the rewards where it's like Skystone or something like that, they probably will put a limit on the entrance for RTA. Regardless, the frames, I personally liked them. I think they're a lot better than the previous seasons. I didn't really like that crown in the legend one. You can kind of see like they got like an angel wing kind of thing going on, especially from the master and above, or sorry, it's challenger and above. Challenger, champion, and legend, you see this kind of like reverse wing thing. I kind of like it. they're going with this really interesting angled motif for just RTA. You can see that. So like the pointy ends are like at a 45 degree on a 45 degree axis, and then they embellish it with like those elements or whatever. I'm pretty sure that's the theme they're going for. I mean, it's a good design strategy, that way you're not like going from the ground up. Like they have a philosophy behind the design. I kind of like that. So all RTA frames will most likely be at a 45 degree in the future, based on this at least. And then the Endeavor Battlefield, so that looks kind of interesting as well. If you get the so this seems to be the decay. It's a bit changed. We can read it for yourself. Percentage of victory points deduced, elapsed playtime 72 hours. So it's the same technically punishment, but now I think the threshold is lower. So as soon as you go to gold or higher, you already start decaying, but you decay at a different rate. So yeah, so you can't just sit in gold anymore. I don't know where I am at right now. No, I don't think I'm in gold. I'm fine. I think I'm in silver at the moment. When I hit the no, season. Never mind. It's season start. Never mind. So I have to redo it again. Pre-season, I'm like sitting in silver. Yeah. So, anyways, 2 exclusive equipments. I think these are probably gonna be the bread and butter of this video. Really. We got Fire Cecilia, and then we got Rin. I have to say, like, overall, both are okay. They're not super like game breaking. I don't think that these ones are so influential that you're gonna see them used more often just because they got their EE. I think in the past, a couple of heroes really got, you know, really good EEs that really made them really like, okay, if you use them now, they're really big game changers. I'll explain why I don't feel this way about these two, although it doesn't mean that they're bad. I think it really does help that hero become more usable. I just don't think it really pushes them to the limit of like, okay, now let's build them, now let's use them. I think we got the same problem there with Cowrick in the last rotation, where I felt like Ravi's was way stronger than Cowrick's, but Cowrick, I think, suffers from a lot of issues, so that an EE doesn't really help. My thoughts on, I think, Fire Cecilia, honestly, where she would be at, having a base stat increase of the effectiveness on this exclusive equipment is probably going to be one of her best. I would like speed on her would be a bit too broken. She has really high base speed anyway. I think it's 110, and HP obviously would be a bit too OP as well. But effectiveness is actually just as good. To be honest, something that I have a gripe with, especially on Vivian's exclusive equipment, is I think that giving her health, even though she had really low base health, really kind of like hindered her. But I honestly think that Smoggy had it in mind, where if they had given her any other stat, or at least any of the stats that we've had so far in exclusive equipment, she would be too broken. So in this case, I think the 16 effectiveness, super good on Cecilia. I mean, all she does is debuff, really. Now with the dev buffs, she has immunity buff for the entire team. So building her fast, usually building her decently tanky, but really fast and high effectiveness is the way to go. You want to get that AoE provoke. The only thing I don't find gels well, and I don't think they could fix it really through an EE, or maybe they could have if they did it on the S3, is that always assume that your opponent that you're going to use Cecilia into has full immunity. She has the S2-1 Steel Cloudburst, the first one there in the middle, dispels 1 buff from all enemies and when using Steel Cloudburst. So that buff, I mean, it can be anything. It can be anything. It's just that she's a really good starter. And if she's an opener and she's a starter, you kind of want to get the provoke off. And if you can't get the provoke off because they have full team immunity, you're not gonna really use Steel Cloudburst potentially, because Steel Cloudburst also has attack down AoE. So like, wouldn't you want to wait to maybe strip it and use it? I don't know. It's like a combination of both. Dispels 1 buff from all enemies after Steel Cloudburst. It does not actually say though, does it dispel before or after the debuff? I'm assuming it doesn't, in terms of like, you could pick and choose how you want to use Steel Cloudburst. You can choose it as a dispel, or you can choose it as an attack down. Now I understand the argument that if they're buffed with any other type of buff, you still dispel it. So like for example an attack buff, a defense buff, or something like that, you can still dispel it, so like a 2-turn. But again, that makes Cecilia still very hard to use, and I think the real reason why Cecilia hasn't seen much use is because the fact that at least if you're in the upper echelons of PvP, you're going to be facing full teams of immunity. So you're really not going to get that provoke off, and you're not going to get the attack down. So that's why I feel that this EE, although the increase in effectiveness is good, everything added to her like skills, whatever you pick, the S1 or the S2, both of them, whatever one you pick, they're going to help her, but she's not going to be like, you know, super crazy. I think honestly where she fits right now is a tank with Aureus that can be very fast, so a very, very fast immunity buffer, and if you get lucky that your opponents don't have AoE immunity, you get some provokes off as well. That's where I feel that she's probably the strongest. So in this case, I think I would probably use Deliverance on her, which is the S1. It increases the defense break chance by 10%. So she has an innate up to 50% if you mold it. 50%, so 60% defense break on an S1. Yeah, that's pretty good. I definitely like that probably a bit better. Steel Cloudburst number 2, so the very bottom one there, makes all enemies unhealable for 2 turns when using Steel Cloudburst. I personally, I mean, it's good. I mean, attack down is great, especially its AoE, and then you can make them unhealable, so that's kind of good as well. But outside of any healers that don't cleanse, the unhealable might not be that useful. And what I mean is like, if you're gonna run unhealable, it usually would be against some form of healing. So like, yes, maybe it'll be useful on like an A Ravi or someone on a lifesteal set, but generally the unhealable comes really, you know, it's a lot better for people who, you know, who somehow don't run a healer that doesn't like that doesn't cleanse. But if you can cleanse, so let's say for example, let's put it in like RTA, right? RTA, let's put it with like probably the top 2 most selected Soul Weavers at the moment, or let's say 3: Rowana, DN, and Ruel. Probably the most selected ones. Out of those two are able to cleanse, so Ruel and DN. And if you put Stella Harpa on Rowana, to be honest, it's probably one of her best in slot in RTA. It probably won't help that much either. So that's my thinking behind Cecilia's artifact. Sorry, Cecilia's artifact. I ended up pulling for 1 because of the because of her artifact, her exclusive artifact. So I have her, but this doesn't convince me to build her. Like, it wouldn't change the fact that I would only build her because of a fast immunity buffer. That's pretty much it. But now we also have ML Crow, Last Rider Crow. So that will be, I'll talk about that in another video. So if you guys are, you know, interested in my thoughts on that, that would be in another video, okay? Hopefully that doesn't make you cheesed thinking that I cover it here. ML, and then Earth Rin. So Earth Rin, I mean, we haven't seen some like real love for her in a while, and honestly I think she's still okay. Just that she's single target mainly, and but she does pack a punch. I think in PvE she's still very solid. She has defense breaks, dispels, and buffs and heals. If you put on a Celestine, I mean, that's pretty good as well. You can even put her on a Celestine with counter, she would still rock it as well. So the effectiveness on her as well for the base stat on this exclusive equipment is also very good. S2 does a defense break, I think it's up to 75% defense break, if I'm not mistaken. And then or 70%, and then just 75% chance to dispel, also 15% CR boost on the S1. That's her innate kit. Her S3, so the skills here, the exclusive equipment, is for the S3 and the S2. So the S2 increases the activating of ring throw by 20% when using Dazzling Dance. I think it's a 50% chance innate, and you can get up to a 70% with that one. So realistically, it would be the S2 Dazzling Dance is the defense break, but then you can also do Ring Throw, which if you have Celestine on, you basically get, you know, you get a dispel and a heal out of it. So that's what makes it really good. The S3 Showtime, you got two options. Amount recovery increased by 15%. It is increasing to the target's max health, so not the caster's max health. So it works kind of like an AoE rod, which is nice. So increase of 15% heal. I think that's a pretty big deal, to be honest. And then, or it dispels one buff from all allies before using the skill effect. So if it's like a Bassar doesn't land Abyssal Crown and it has an unbuffable, you get to dispel it now, and then you get the effects applied, so you can get the 2 random buffs that you get from Showtime usually. So I think both compared, I would say Rin's is a stronger EE based on like all three are like usable and more usable than I would say where Cecilia would find herself. I'm talking about fights where you would bring them in that makes sense. Cecilia seems to still suffer just because she doesn't dispel first. At least that's what I think. That's what I think. But that doesn't. It's not even for the S3 though. It's only for the S2. So if it does dispel first and there's like an immediate attack down, honestly that would be very good. That's very solid. So mark my words. All right. So I mean, leave it in the comment section below once we find it out. But I'm just gonna say it right now. Like I would say that if anything, if it dispels the buff first before applying the attack down, then Steel Cloud Burst -1 is the better choice, and it will probably be a lot more usable. Dispelling, like being able to dispel on a turn 1 or immunity buff and AoE provoke is a pretty big deal, and you're on a knight and that's really quick, and she can defense break, so like she can actually be pretty good. Actually, the more I think about it, as long as it dispels first, I think I'm sold on the Cecilia one. And then Rin I have no problem with. I think all three are really strong for her kit. Robbie and Cowrick will be added to the Alchemist Steeple. Next, we got Vivian and Cowrick returning. And Vivian one, man, oh, such a bait. I mean, I recently posted a build and PvP showcase video on Vivian. I think I got a lot of good feedback on it. I mean, a lot of people are not really strangers to what Vivian can do. It's just that they haven't really put the love into her. And honestly, I think she needs to be geared really well. Either you are really fast and use her that way, or you build her like high damage but also sort of bulky-ish, although it's really hard because of her base stats. Cowrick I'm not going to talk about. I'm still not really satisfied with Cowrick even after the dev buff. I already put Mola into him. I was one of the first to jump onto Cowrick because I needed some kind of way to counter Bassar easier. But then Lidica got a buff, and then Cowrick's buff kind of leaves him still in the dust. I don't know what his role is supposed to be honest. A lot of people tell me that you know, he's good for Azzy Manic hunts. That's like because he could dispel and stuff. I'm still kind of curious. But anyways, Vivian, Dignus Orb, I wanted to max it. If you guys watch that video again, you know where my Vivian struggled. 1 imprint will get me to 100% crit rate, and more Dignus Orb with bigger barrier, kind of a temptation for me. But if you guys need, like, you guys need to know like where Vivian stands, I'll be like very honest. Vivian, unless you're very big brain in your drafting for like World Arena, I'm gonna only use World Arena here because Guild War offense honestly is sort of a joke. We have so much flexibility in heroes and builds right now, and this is why if you guys are watching this and you guys are like, hey Jagan, where's the Guild Wars videos? I'm still recording the fight. I'm really like, it's kind of boring to post, so I'll probably post something up soon in case you guys are wondering. But Vivian, honestly, I think in offensive fight, Arena, Guild War, I still use her. Even though I have Oxlots or whatever, she's very nice. She's very tactical just because of all the stuff she can bring. If you guys want like examples of how I used her or how I use her, definitely check out that showcase video there. But I think in World Arena, if you're fighting top players, honestly it's very hard to draft Vivian in. There's a lot of ways to counter her, and I'm not gonna spoil it in the video if you haven't figured it out, just in case if I face you in World Arena and I draft Vivian, I don't want to teach you how to counter her, but she's very easily countered. And the problem is, again, she's innately too squishy, and she's technically a 2-turn cleaver, as in she needs a second turn to be able to, you know, go to her max potential. So she has flaws, but she's definitely really nice to have. So I'm kind of tempted just to pull for the Dignus or pull for her, so I can just finish her off and just be like, call it a day, you know. So that's my thoughts on it. Bulk promotion update, you guys can read the details on it. It seems pretty self-explanatory. I would have to say that one thing I should bring up is definitely look into your settings when you're doing this. I mean, they do these filters so that you don't make a mistake. I know it's really sad to hear, but I've heard stories where people, like, you know, fodder their 5-star, although unbelievable as it is. I mean, I believe it can still happen. The only reason why I don't believe it's almost unbelievable, is just because there's so many steps for you to actually press, you know, promote like a 5-star, but using another 5-star hero into it, you know. So make sure that, you know, you get used to the settings whenever this is released. So after the patch, you get used to the settings and just make sure you're doing it right. Otherwise, I just have a feeling that there's gonna be a player or two starting like a Reddit thread or something like, I lost these heroes. It's bound to happen. Someone's gonna do it. Reputation improvements. This is a pretty interesting one that we got no hint about. But there's some interesting things that basically it's different. It's much more different than what we're doing now. It seems that we might be getting better rewards based on this, but don't worry, I'm just pretending that I'm reading it. I'm actually too lazy to read it. If you do your dailies, you're just gonna get whatever it said, right? Artifact inventory improvements. This is a huge one as well. Up to 200 storage space if you use your Skystone. This was mentioned in their dev note preview. That's a pretty big one, just because now we have so many artifacts, and a lot of artifacts, honestly, we have multiple copies of, and this is a necessity now, especially for World Arena. You need a couple nights on Aureus, you need a couple nights on Adamant Shield, you need a couple nights on Elbrus Ritual Store, you need a couple mages on books. This is pretty big. And although, you know, one may say that, well, I have those artifacts always equipped to the heroes so they don't waste item slots. If you're looking at my box, or I'm pretty sure a lot of people will feel the same way. There's a lot of artifacts that are usually just hanging. I mean, you're swapping artifacts around, but you're never like let's say for example, I have an Aureus interchangeable between like a Crow and Fallen Cecilia. It's not like I'm gonna like take off the Aureus off Crow, put it on Fallen Cecilia, and then like put a Holy Sacrifice on Crow right away. It's just too much gold. So although you have multiple artifacts, unless those artifacts are like always on that hero, you're never gonna, you're always gonna have some what I call straggler artifacts. So like artifacts that are max or whatever, but they're not equipped. So I mean, giving you at least up to a 200 space is a huge deal. I know it's gonna be big for myself. And some artifact improvements in terms of the filtering. Hide locked artifacts, I think that's the biggest one, but you can also go by class now, so that's very nice to have. Good UI update. New event artifact added. It's the I guess the equivalent to the first anniversary one, but it's a bit more experience, but it doesn't stack. So this kind of, well, I mean they give us artifact slots now, but it just kind of like, it made me feel like I would almost rather have stackable artifacts, but not at an increased rate. So I believe the first year one was 10%. I might be wrong, actually. I might be wrong, but I believe it was 10%, and now it's giving you 15. Like I would almost rather have like, I don't know, 10%. So at least there's like a loyalty thing to it, where like if you were there for the first year, you got a 10% one, and you're here for the second year, you get a 10% one, and you can stack it. Now you get 20%. I mean, maybe newer players will complain that, hey, we don't get the first year artifact. Maybe that's the reason, but it almost makes me feel that then that artifact's a waste now, just a waste of space, because you can't stack it. Most likely you're gonna use this one. But anyways, long story short, let's just move. Kind of a new limited donation pack. I mean, you could follow the links to it. You get a flappy owl, you get some leaf out of it. I looked at it, I'm like, okay, guess it's kind of good for a good cause. And honestly, you get some leaf out of it, and you get a frame with an angel on it. Yeah, it's okay. I think that's pretty much it. The rest are like little changes here and there that probably will be unseen, like some details in terms of like descriptions on skills and stuff like that. Anyways, I'm gonna end this one here. Pretty normal, pretty psyched for episode 3, Hymn of a Wailing Tundra. This is actually a very cool name. I think a lot of people said this, but I will say this as well. It is way cooler than God Killer. I honestly felt God Killer was cringy, but I guess it's maybe just how it's translated or something. I don't know. I mean, the story was about God killing, but still, this like seems like more poetic or whatever. Anyways, guys, are into my thoughts on ML Crow. Definitely check it out. I'll be making that as a separate video, but I'm gonna end this one for the video recording. If you guys have Discord, check out the Discord server. Follow me on Twitter. Subscribe to YouTube if you haven't. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.